So, moksha ched upasana rupa dharma phalam. Let us say that moksha was a product of upasana. Upasana means dharma. Upasana means meditation upon devata. And that will be classified as dharma, in keeping with the injunction of the Shruti. Suppose moksha is the result of dharma of the nature of upasana. Moksha says upasana rupa dharma phalam. If you imagine that moksha is a result of the upasana which is the nature of dharma of the nature of upasana, tadeva priyamasti, then dharma must necessarily bring about priya or some kind of a pleasure, bodily pleasure. See, we are distinguishing pleasure from that happiness in that pleasure is born of the contact with the objects. And then this person should depend upon a contact with the object for being happy. So moksha also, had it been the result of some kind of upasana which is karma, then even the wise man also will be happy because of some reason. Here atmaniyeva atmana tushta, he is happy by himself without dependence upon anything. That shows that his happiness is totally free or totally independent. However, if moksha were of the result of upasana, then you will imagine that wise man always enclosed in a certain atmosphere. See, because what can dharma bring about? Dharma can bring about certain situation around you. And contact with that comfortable situation will bring about happiness. So a person to be happy, when the happiness depends upon an external situation, that person always will be in a certain environment. Similarly also, if the moksha were a product of dharma, then would expect that the result of that wise man who is mukta would also be due to a certain situation which happens around himself. But then that is denied here. Priya and apriya, both of them are denied. So priyamasti, tadeva priyamasti, dharma must bring about priyam, tad nisheda yogaha. And there cannot be nisheda of that priya if moksha were the karma phala of the nature of upasana. So vipakshe badaka pratibadakam bhashyam avatara. The vipakshe badaka. If you don't accept this paksha, then this problem will arise. That is what is said. Dharma karyatve iti. Dharma karyatve iti bhashyakara says. Dharma karyatve hi priya priyasparshana pratishedha na upapadyate. Dharma karyatvehi. If indeed you accept that moksha is dharma karya, meaning a product of dharma of the nature of upasana, priya priya sparshana pratishedha na upapadyate. Shruti cannot there deny or cannot negate any sparsha with priya and apriya for a person who is mukta. That also shows that moksha cannot be the product of upasana. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sūtra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmevi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Atha Om Atha Om Atha Tattu Samanvaya 148 third line. Evam avidyadidoshavatam dharma dharmatartamya nimittam shariropadana purvakam sukha dukkhatarattamyam anityam samsara rupam shruti smriti nyaya prasiddham तथा च श्रुतिः नह वै स्वशरीरस्य सतः प्रिया प्रिययोः अपहतिरस्ति इति यथा वर्णितम् संसाररूपम् अनुवदते अशरीरं वा वसन्तम् न प्रिया प्रिये स्पृशतः इति प्रिया प्रिय स्पर्श प्रतिषेधात् चोदना लक्षण धर्म कार्यत्वम् मोक्षाख्यस्य अशरीरत्वस्य प्रतिषिध्यते इति गम्यते धर्म कार्यत्वे हि प्रिया प्रिय स्पर्श निषेधः प्रतिषेधः न उपपद्यते प्लस नह वै सशरीरस्य सतः प्रिया प्रिययोः अपहतिः अस्ति इति. In this statement of Shruti, that as long as one is sasharira, meaning identified with the body. But Atma never is Sasharira, Atma becomes Sasharira. He becomes embodied on account of identification with the body. Thus, as long as there is an identification with the body, this Aham Mama Bhava in the body, Priya Priyaho Apahatihi Nasti, so long there cannot be a cessation of Priya and Apriya, as we said of the pairs of opposites. In this manner, Yatha Varnidam Samsara Rupam Anuvadati, this is Anuvada. Shruti Smriti Nyaya Prasiddham. So this Shruti Prasiddham, that Priya Priyayoho Apahatihi Nasti, that is Samsara. That one is constantly tormented by these pairs of opposites, which is Samsara, and this is Samsara. This is called Samsara. Samsara Rupam Anuvadati Shrutihi. And therefore, the Nyaya was said there, Moksho na karmaphalam, karmaphala viruddha, atindriyatva, vishokatva, शरीरादि अभोग्यत्वादि धर्मवत्वात् व्यतिरेकेण स्वर्गादिवत् इति न्याय. मोक्षः न कर्मफलम, मोक्ष is not karmaphala because karmaphala viruddhatvaत्. Moksha is quite different from the karmaphala. That dharma, adharma gives rise to sukha dukkha. Now dharma phalam is sukham, having taradamya. In this manner in moksha there cannot be taradamya. Atindriyatvaत्. And sukha is experienced at the level of senses. Moksha, meaning Atma, is not experienced in that sense. So atindriya, Atma or Brahman is atindriyam. It is the very self. Therefore, it is beyond the sensuous perception or sensuous experience, you might say. Vishogatvam, both sukha and dukkha that are generated, as even sukha that is generated as a result of dharma, can be still called shoka in as much as there is always some dukkha, some sampruktatvam, anityatvam, sadhishayatvam, and therefore that also is really shoka alone, and therefore moksha is devoid of. Sukha it is alright, but not naimittikam sukham. There is no element of dukkha at all, and it cannot be improved upon, and therefore sukha, devoid of all its possible limitations, alone is Brahman. So that is therefore vishokatvam is there, ashariradi bhogyatvam, and also that sukha is always experienced with sharira. So sukha is within the scope of indriya. At the same time, sukha requires a particular sharira to be entertained or to be courted in order to experience it. Meaning that as long as one has to experience the result of dharma, so long another embodiment is necessary. In that sense, it is said that dharma phalam involves embodiment, whereas vidya phalam, which is moksha, does not involve embodiment, because for remaining mukta, the body is not required. For experiencing happiness, a body is required, in as much as sense organs are required. Otherwise, you cannot experience that happiness. Whereas for experiencing Atma, if you want to use that word, you do not require body, meaning sense organs, and therefore it brings an end to the need for any further embodiments. And while you are experiencing moksha also, you are not making an effort. So, indriyajanyam sukham means happiness that is born as a result of effort. Therefore, there can be obstacles in that sukha. That an object may be there which is desirable to you, and still you may not be able to enjoy it because the indriyas are not in a proper condition. Indriya also includes mind, which may not be in a proper mood. And therefore, when there is an intervention of the mind and the sense organs, there can always be a number of obstacles. There is no obstacle between I and moksha. That is what is meant. Yat sakshat aparokshat brahma. Sakshat aparoksham brahma. Aparoksham. But then sukha dukkha etc. are also called aparoksha. If it is sakshat aparoksham, even that kind of vyavadhanam, that sakshi bhasyatvam also is not there. Normally when they use the word aparoksha, then they mean sakshi bhasya. So sukha dukkha etc. are called aparoksha vada niyayikas. Therefore, Brahman is sakshat aparoksham. Meaning even that sakshi bhasyatvam also is not there. It is a very sakshi. So atindriyatva means effortless, natural happiness, and shariradi abhogyatva meaning no need for any further embodiment or no need for a limited existence for being mukta. And thus these are all the differences distinctions between the dharma phalam and moksha. Therefore moksha cannot be karma phalam. And also, mokshasched upasana roga dharma phalam tadeva priyam asti. Also, suppose moksha was a product of some kind of a dharma, some kind of an apurva. In that case, it would be of a nature of a sensation, naturally. Whatever is created by action, by apurva, brings about a certain experience. And therefore, that means that sensation is something that is dear to me, something that is desired by me. And therefore I would brand it as priya. So, number one, all the time in pursuit of dharma, there is definitely in my mind a desire to become free from adharma, meaning dukkha. Whenever a person takes trouble to follow the values and does whatever, or apart from values, perform specific rituals, Vedic karmas, then also there is definitely a need for that person to avoid dukkha. And therefore, even that pursuit of dharma is brought about by a need for avoidance of dukkha. And therefore, there is always giving up something and holding on to something when it comes to sukha that is generated by dharma. There is no such thing in moksha. There is no giving up or there is no hanging on to. In one case, at least you have to hang on to something and avoid something. No such effort is involved here. And therefore, if moksha were the result of some kind of dharma, namely upasana, then it is something that I would want to have it. It would be priya or desirable, then because it is opposed to something else. That vaishayikam sukham is opposed to dukkham, while moksha is opposed to nothing. That's the whole idea here. Moksha means atma or abidance in atma is not opposed to anything. Not opposed to sukha, not opposed to dukkha, and therefore nas prushataha. That priya and apriya, sukha dukkha do not touch the atma, meaning atma is unopposed to sukha and dukkha also. Therefore, in moksha, it is not that I am hanging on to something in preference to something else, or that there is an effort involved on my part to remain free or to abide in myself, and therefore I must do something or not do something. Abiding in myself is natural or effortless. Therefore, there is no priyatvam or apriyatvam. Priyatvam is there when it is opposed to apriyatvam. That is why even any karma phala is something that is opposed to dukkha. Dharma phala is opposed to dukkha. Moksha is not opposed to dukkha. Therefore, there is no priyatvam also. Therefore, there is a nisheda of priya and apriya both. Ashariram vavasantam na priya priya sprushataha. Somebody may think that I do not want sparsha or contact with apriya or dukkha. But why should there be a negation of even contact with sukha? Why does Shruti negate the contact or experience of both priya and apriya, sukha and dukkha? Who doesn't want happiness? I would like to be happy, but then when you are happy, as you define happiness, then there is always that potential of unhappiness there. In the happiness, in one way or the other, that pragabhava unhappiness is always there. That's why you call it happiness. But what do we call happiness? It's only nothing but either absence of unhappiness or something that is opposed to unhappiness. In the very branding of some experience as happiness, there is always a potential of unhappiness there because it is opposed to something. And when one thing is opposed to something, there is always a party. So you have to hang on to one and you have to oppose something else. Moksha is not like that, meaning there is no effort involved of any kind because there is no priya, because there is no apriya. For a mukta person, since there is nothing apriyam, therefore there is no priyam. Therefore we understand that what we call priya and apriya, or desirable and undesirable, are all nothing but the notions of my own mind. And that's how I judge the world, as desirable and undesirable, as conducive, non-conducive. All of these arise on account of my conclusion about myself, that I am dukkhi. And therefore anything that keeps me dukkhi becomes undesirable. Anything that helps me avoid that dukkha becomes desirable. And thus is desirable and undesirable. All of these are notions that are born of my own distorted notion of myself. Then what is said? For a wise man there is nothing priya, nothing apriya. Since there is no apriya, therefore there is no priya. Doesn't mean that he is dull. Means that he is not tormented by pairs of opposites. Doesn't get elated because he sees something or get depressed because he sees something else. Because he is free. That alone is called freedom. Where the happiness or unhappiness do not depend upon something else. And therefore, when there is a denial of priya and apriya both in case of moksha, there is a denial of any kind of opposition. Purna is that which cannot be opposed to anything. It must be all inclusive. So moksha cannot oppose anything. Freedom cannot oppose anything. If freedom is opposed to bondage, it is not that freedom. This freedom is not opposed to bondage. This freedom is even through the bondage. Because bondage is apparent. If moksha were opposed to body, then of course one could not be what we call jivan mukta. In that case, it would necessarily be a state of unembodied state. Is not opposed to body. Atma is not opposed to body. How can Atma be opposed to body? Because body could not have been if Atma were not. And therefore, there is no opposition to any kind. So that whole opposition, that reaction, absence of that is what is shown here by saying Ashariram Vavasantam Na Priya Priyas Prashataha. It's very beautiful that he is free from Priya and Apriya. Meaning no struggle is involved of any kind to remain free. Iti priya priya sparsha pratishedat. It was said earlier, priya is something desirable as opposed to undesirable. Apriya is something undesirable opposed to desirable. Dharma is something that is opposed to adharma. Adharma is something that is opposed to dharma. Ubhe satyan hriday tyaktva yena tyajasi tatyaja. So dharma and adharma both are opposed to each other. It is true that we must first hold on to dharma or adopt dharma in order to become free from adharma. That is necessary. That dharma must necessarily be there in our life in order that we are free from adharma. That samskara of the adharma are there, those natural tendencies are there of taking things for granted, of violating, is there in everyone. And therefore, we have to watch out for these things so that I do not violate the order. But then dharma also involves kartrutvam. That this alone should be done and that should not be done. Because this is desirable to me and that is not desirable to me. Therefore, I have isolated myself as an entity for whom something desirable is there and something undesirable is there. Therefore, I am still classifying the world into desirable and undesirable. One has to grow out of, when they say that one should even grow out of dharma, it is not so much growing out of good behavior. It is growing out of that which brings about this notion of dharma and adharma. And what brings it out is the sense of individuality on my part. That when I am an individual, then something is desirable by me, and therefore anything that keeps me happy is desirable, that becomes dharma. So it is that sense of individuality that brings about the need for dharma also. So dharma at some point in time shows a need. Therefore it is said, Ubhe satyanare tyaktva. That you realize that that need also has to go. Having to discover that you are free from the need. So when there is a denial of dharma, it is not that there is a taraskara or there is a condemnation of dharma. Only it is said that one has to even grow out of that. There is something even above and beyond that. There is definitely a condemnation of adharma, no doubt about that. But Shastra does not condemn dharma. But Shastra wants us to know that confining to rules and regulations is not the ultimate in your life. That you are that which is of the nature of dharma without the need for rules and regulations. That dharma is something natural to you. Which dharma? Not opposed to anything. And therefore that dharma which is free from any need for rules and regulations, that dharma being your nature, this relative dharma, which opposed to adharma, one should grow out of. In that sense, tyaja dharmam, adharmam cha, it is said. In this priya priya sparsha pratishedhat shodhana lakshana dharma karyatvam mokshakhyasya asharirattvasya pratisiddhyate gamyate. Pratisiddhyate meaning that Shruti says that moksha is not merely a dharma karya. It is an existent fact, and that is what is being said there. Dharma karyatve priya priya sparshana pratishedah na upapadyate. Had moksha been a product of dharma, then there would have been a sparsha of the priya. Because moksha would have been dharma, why do we perform? Dharma means here rituals, which is enjoined by the vidhi. And why do we comply with them? Because we are interested in something desirable. And therefore, that moksha would have been of the nature of something that you desire, and thus priya sparsha would not go, even if a priya sparsha goes. And the fact that the priya sparsha also is negated here shows that karyatvam, dharma karyatvam also is negated. It's a brilliant way of analyzing the statement. How sees Bhashyakara the denial of any kind of the karma phalatvam in moksha in these statements? That is why Nyaya Anugrahyam Shrutimaha. Shankaracharya could have quoted any number of Shruti to illustrate or to show the nature of moksha. But why this particular statement quoted here? Because there is this Nyaya involved there, or there is this suggestion, inference involved there. Arthapatti also involved there, that this could not be. Had moksha been karma phalam, this could not be. In order that what Shruti says is true, moksha cannot be dharma phalam or adharma phalam. And thus this arthapatti being involved there, therefore Bhashyakara quotes a very apt statement from the Shruti. Okay, now proceed further. Nanu, go to page 149. Ratnabhava starts there, the first line, Nanu priyam nama vaishayikam sukham tad nishidhyate. An objection here. Understand, all these objections are raised to get a clarity about this, that's all. It's not that somebody is waiting there. You can imagine that also, it makes it more interesting. But then, the thing is, these various questions are raised here to get a clarity about the meaning of the statement of the Shruti. After all, the purpose of Brahma Sutra is to analyze Shruti. So, purpose of the Samanvaya Sutra is to understand these Shrutis, apart from doing khandanam of these Purva Pakshis, etc. Purpose is to understand these Shrutis, which present Brahman as the Tatparya Vishaya. And therefore about the Shruti, these questions are raised. Nanu priyam nama vaishayikam sukham. What is priyam? Vaishayikam sukham. Happiness that is generated as a result of the Vishaya, or as a result of some desirable object, some object. Tad nishidhyate. Ashariram vavasantam na priya priya sprushataha. When it is said that the priya and the priya do not touch or influence the Atma with the Asharira, then what is negated there is Vaishayika Sukha. Mokshastu dharma phalameva karmanam vichitra phaladana samarthyat. Let us say that moksha is not sukham, namely Vaishayika sukham, or dukkham of course. Moksha is that kind of a state which is no doubt the result of dharma, all right, but not of the nature of Vaishayika Sukha. So what is desirable or priyam is Vaishayikam Sukha, meaning a sensation that is generated as a result of experience of a desirable object. Let us call that as priyam, because you love it, you like that. When anything creates in you a sensation that you enjoy, then that becomes an object of like. So here he says, Priyam, generally as we understand, is always Vaishayikam Sukham, happiness born of Vishaya. Mokshastu Dharma Phalameva. Let us say that moksha is necessarily, indeed, Dharma Phalam is result of Dharma or some kind of Purva. Karmanam Vichitra Phaladat Samarthya. But it is not of the nature of Priya. We say that moksha is not Vaishayika Sukha, meaning not a happiness comparable to the happiness generated from an object. Nevertheless, it is a result of karma. Suppose there is a state called moksha, which is happiness all right, but not Vaishayika Sukha, and still brought about by dharma, because dharma or karma has the capability of giving rise to different kinds of results. Results which are beyond our comprehension. Vichitra Phaladana Samarthyat. And so, dharma or the Vedic karma having the capability of giving rise to vichitra, meaning altogether unexpected or incomprehensible results it can give, you cannot compare moksha with any other karma phala, because ordinary karma, of course, according to your experience or according to the statement of Vedas, do give rise to some result. But how do you know that the moksha, which is dharma phala, is necessarily of the same kind as ordinary other phala like swarga, etc.? How do you say? We say that moksha is a karma phala, all right, but of a class different from swarga. Then what? Because karma can give rise to some unexpected or incomprehensible result, which moksha is. And that is here discussed by Purnanandiya. Dharma phalam dvividham. This is what the Purva Pakshi says. Dharma phalam dvividham. Dharma has twofold result. Tathahi, to illustrate, Vaishayika sukha hetutvena tat sukha sambandhi rupam dharma phalam ekam yatha swargade. Like swarga is one kind of a phala, which is Vaishayika sukha hetutvena. Dharma becomes a hetu or the cause of Vaishayika sukha, of happiness coming from objects. Tat sukha sambandhi rupam dharma phalam. Therefore, a phala that brings about Vaishayika sukha, like heavens, apsaras are there, and then the different gardens are there, and the kalpa vruksha, all kinds of alaukika vishayas are there, and enjoyment or experience of those vishayas is swarga. So yes, that is one result of dharma, that it brings about a sensuous happiness. That is one kind of result like swarga. Tathacha swarga adijadam sukham shrutya nishidyate. Therefore when Shruti says na priya priya sprushadaha, then what is negated in moksha is this kind of happiness that one experiences in swarga, which is happiness born of different objects. Tasmat na sukha sparshan nisheda ayoga. Therefore, when the Shruti prohibits or negates the sparsha of the sukha, it is quite alright, because that sukha is like swarga, which is the sukha of the Vaishayika sukha. Then aparam. What is aparam? Dharma phalam dvidham. Ekam and aparam. The second one is what? Aparam dharma phalam ashariratva rupam. Let's say that another kind of result that dharma has is ashariratva rupam, bringing about a state of unembodiedness. So dharma also can bring about a state called freedom from embodiment. Tatcha paryavasanataya shariradi abhavaha. When Shruti says ashariram, then it means shariradi abhavaha. Absence of or freedom from sharira, etc. Satu dhvamsavat nityopi janyascha. And then moksha has to be nitya. Like dhvamsa is nitya. Which dhvamsa? Pradhvamsa. So destruction, and therefore, so there is a pragabhava, there is a pradhvamsa bhava. That pradhvamsa bhava is something that is created as a result of dhvamsa. It is nitya. Dhvamsa also is nitya. Dhvamsa means destruction. When the thing is destroyed, it can never come back. It is not that thing which ever comes back, and therefore dhvamsa or destruction is nityam. Even though dhvamsa is a karma phala, that you broke something and dhvamsa is generated and ever remains, and so also moksha also is karma phala and can be considered to be nitya. like Dvamsa. Just give one illustration. Dvamsa or destruction is Nitya. Because once the thing is destroyed, it ever remains destroyed. Even if something comes, like if you patch up that pot, it is never the same pot. It is another pot now. It is patched up pot and not the same one. And therefore destruction once takes place, it ever remains. Destruction ever remains destruction. Therefore Dvamsa according to them is considered Nitya. So Dvamsa is born as a result of karma and still it is Nitya. So how do you say that karma phala cannot be Nitya? It can be Nitya. So moksha also, even though it is dharma phala, result of karma, it is can be still Nitya. Nityopi janyascha. It is janya, it is created and still Nitya. So these are all standard arguments, nothing new about this. And the answer also is very standard. Sayeva moksha shruti balat. So that alone is moksha and shruti balat. Since Shruti says, even if you cannot comprehend logically, how can dharma or any ritual how can it give rise to a result of an embodiment? We will imagine that logically, whenever you perform a ritual, it must give rise to a result for experiencing which you have to take some body. How can dharma or karma phala ever give rise to a state of unembodiment? That is not logical. Because Vaishayikam Sukham must necessarily require indriyas, that necessarily requires body, and that requires an embodiment. Says, no, this moksha is of a different nature. How do you say? Shruti balat. Shruti says, ashariram vavasantam na priya priya sprushataha. Shruti says that priya and apriya do not touch him. So it is some kind of a extraordinary or different kind of an experience. Moksha is no doubt an experience, all right, but not like Swarga. Swarga is an experience generated from objects outside of you. Therefore it requires sense organs. Therefore it requires body. We say that moksha is an experience, all right, which does not require a body. And therefore it is a state of unembodiment. That kind of a state is called moksha. However it is, When you call it an experience, then we cannot imagine how an experience can be without an instrument of experience. How can there be an experience unless there is mind to experience with? And when there is no body, there is no mind also. So how can you experience something? We don't know. But anyway, says Shruti Balat, since Shruti says that we have to imagine that moksha is some kind of a state which is devoid of body and which is different from the experience of Swarga, etc., which is nevertheless an experience or a state anyway. Karmanam vichitra shaktitvena vichitra phaladana samarthyacha. Since karma has Shruti Balat number one, and secondly, karmanam vichitra shaktitvena. Since karmas can have different kinds of shakti. Vichitra means variegated, wondrous power karma can have, and therefore it can give rise to some kind of unexpected or out of this world result that also karma can do. So two reasons, because Shruti says, and secondly, karma can give rise to unexpected or incomprehensible results. Therefore, dharma phalam eva mokshastu dharma phalam eva. Therefore, Purvavadi says moksha is a result of dharma upasana. Iti bhava. Therefore, Bhashyakara said ashariratvam eva. Says Bhashya, ashariratvam eva dharma karyamiti che na tasya swabhavikatvad. So in this discussion, how Bhashyakara, ultimately the purpose of discussion is to clearly understand what moksha is. So here the purpose is not to deny karma or the capability of karma or anything. It is more to understand the nature of moksha. And therefore, since moksha is something natural, once the river has reached the ocean, no effort is required on the part of the river to remain where it is, because it is in a natural state. So moksha is the most natural state, that's all. Which natural state does not require the agency of the body or the sense organs or the mind, because it's not a state. If you want to remain in a state, you require, in a suspension, you require the help of something. The most natural state does not require any other aid. That alone is called natural. That water can naturally remain cold, so it doesn't require an aid to remain cool, so it is natural state. For water to remain hot, it requires an aid in the form of contact with the fire, so it is not natural state. Similarly, what is the natural state? Asmi, ahamasmi, sadabhami, kadachit naham apriya. That is the most natural state. I have to make no effort to be. I have to make no effort to be conscious. I have to make no effort to be an object of my love. This is effortless, and that alone is moksha. And therefore, this is tasya swabhavikatvat. Moksha is swabhava. What is swabhava? Swabhava is that where no effort is required. Therefore it is said, yatra nanyat nanyat pashyati, nanyat shranoti, nanyat vijanati. Where there is no hearing, no seeing, no knowing, meaning there is no duality or effort required. You don't have to sustain that duality to remain. We sustain the duality because we think that we will be wiped out. A person retains the duality in order to retain his individuality, otherwise he will be wiped out. Even that aham also is not required. Ahamina ashabhadi, even that aham also drops off. Parama purna sat sphuratirut swayam. So swayam means what? Swabhavikam. That hrut is something swayam or swabhavikam, sphurati, it shines, it ever remains. So moksha being the swabhavika, a swabhavika nature is never the result of karma phala. As they say, what effort is required for sugar crystal to remain sweet? No, it must continue to do some upasana, otherwise the poor thing will become bitter, Somebody may say, the sugar, if it doesn't hold on to some karma, will become bitter. Is any effort required on the part of honey or sugar to remain sweet? No, because it is sweet by nature. And so, swabhavikatvat. Therefore, sweetness of sugar cannot be karma phala. Its whiteness can be karma phala, its yellowness can be karma phala, its cubeness can be karma phala, but sweetness can never be karma phala. And so also all kinds of powers and siddhis can be karma phalas, but then mukti cannot be karma phala because it is swabhavika, it is the very nature. So this is how the nature of moksha is being unfolded here. Says Ratnabhava, Atmanah Deha Asangitvam Ashariratvam Tasya Anaditvat Na Karma Sadhyata. What is Ashariratvam? That is to be understood now. Is Ashariratvam becoming free from the body? That Atma right now is Sasharira, meaning Atma right now is embodied, and that Dharma brings about a state called embodiment, yes, then it would have been right also. If Ashariratvam is something that is brought about, that right now Atma is Sasharira, meaning he is embodied, then in order to become unembodied, some karma would be required. That is their argument. That right now what is my experience? I am an embodied person. In order to become unembodied, I must do something to become free from these shackles of the body. And Shruti says that Ashariratvam is the state of moksha. Therefore Ashariratvam is possible. That means that the Atma which is right now endowed with body will become devoid of body. And that state can be brought about only by karma. It cannot be brought about otherwise. Therefore moksha is dharma phalam. Because Shruti says Ashariraha. And Asharira is what? That which is free from Sharira. Right now Atma has Sharira, and by some kind of vichitra effect of the karma, Atma will become free from Sharira. It will become what? Asharira. That was an argument. We say that Atma is not Sasharira even now. So Sashariratvam of the Atma is not really an association with the body. The right Atma right now is associated with the body, and because of upasana it will become disassociated with the body. It is that Atma is not associated with the body even now. That's what he said. Atmana deha asangitvam ashariratvam. Asango hiyam purusha. That Atma is unconnected with the body. Even when Atma is taken to be embodied, even then also it is unconnected with the body. Never tasya anaditva. That asangatvam of the Atma or unconnectedness is not born. It's not that you do something and the Atma who is at the moment Sangi becomes Asanga. It's not that. Atma is Asanga, unembodied or unconnected even now. And therefore, it is not, that state is not something to be brought about with the help, with karma, because it is already an existing thing. So, Atmanah Dehadi Deha Asangitvam Ashariratvam Tasya Asharirattvasya Anaditvat. That the Shariratvam is Anadi. Anadi means what? Uncreated. Means what? Swabhavika. Anadi need not imagine going back and back, Anadi means already existing. Meaning ever there. Meaning that which is natural. That's all Vedantis are interested. They are not interested in beginning, etc. What does it matter? Something was created or not created, they are interested in the present. And you cannot explain the beginning of anything, etc. But the point is, when it is Anadi, Adi means cause. For Atma to be unembodied, there is no cause. Why, if you ask sugar, why are you sweet? So I don't know. What else can I be? So, you ask question, why are you complete? You ask fire, why are you hot? There is no answer. Because heat of fire is not something that is generated as a result of action. It is nature. And so also, Asangatvam, being unembodied, being unconnected to the body, is the nature of Atma. Therefore it's called Anadi. Anadi means which doesn't have a beginning, or Anadi means which doesn't have a cause. It is causeless. Meaning what? It is natural. Keeping that in mind, it is Na, Bhashyakara said, Na, Tasya Swabhavikatvatvat. Now, Purnanandaya explains this nicely, because he gave the illustration of Dhvamsa, so that illustration also you must show how that illustration has a Vyabhichara, or an Upadhi there. So, Ashariratvam Bhavarupam eva, natu Abhavarupam. See, illustration you give is what? Dhvamsa. Imagine that such a thing as Dhvamsa is, which Vedantis don't accept anyway. Abhava is not accepted. But they keep on painting Abhava in different ways and spend so much time. The Nayayikas spend so much time with Abhava. Praga Bhava, Pradhvamsa Bhava, Atyanta Bhava, Anyonya Bhava. That Abhava or non-existence also is made so complicated by them that you accept for the time being. In fact, we would dismiss the Abhava itself altogether, There cannot be a non-existence. You cannot imagine non-existence, because non-existence of part is what? How do you have knowledge of non-existence of part? When you have knowledge of something else, can your mind ever be devoid of anything? Can you have knowledge of non-existence? You have knowledge of something, and therefore there cannot be really, this is imagination. And the imagination then they write big books about that. Therefore that becomes it becomes very, very intellectual and stuff like that. But this Abhava is all imagination business, is not accepted. In the beginning of Taittiriya Upanishad, Bhashyakara dismisses this idea. What is this Praga? How in Abhava also is a Praga Bhava is different from Pradhvamsa Bhava? What qualifies Abhava? What is not existent? Like horn's hair of the horn, You say one hair has a long horn and a short horn. What is non-existence? How can you call it long and short? Or the horn on my head? No, you have long horns and this fellow has short horns. When the horns are not there, how can you qualify horn? A non-existent horn is long and short and stuff like that. It's all imagination. What happens is you love your imagination so much that you then start building upon that, you see. But anyway, since you have to contend with them, you have to talk to them in the same language, otherwise you are not satisfied with them. And there are people who follow them. The point is, there are so many followers, because Nayayikas sound very intelligent. And therefore, there are many people who are intellectuals, who follow them. Therefore, it is necessary to answer them in their own terms, in order to at least release other people, And therefore, the Nayayikas are answered in their own. Otherwise, we need not bring up this kind of a Purva-paksha which you don't accept. There is no Dhvamsa. There is no destruction according to Vedanta. What is destroyed? Pot is destroyed. What is pot? We call it clay. How do you call it pot? Is clay destroyed? Clay is not destroyed. Where is destruction? There is no destruction. So Dhvamsa cannot become illustration according to us. And so also this is Janma. Also Utpatti cannot become. Where is Utpatti? What is born? Name and form? Only take it with you. Give me the clay, Can you take away name and form? Which is something independent of the clay? So imagine that the pot is imaginary, and when you give illustration of pot, everything is all imagination alone. And then you take this imaginary pot and imagine its utpatti and dhvamsa, and then present as illustration. It's all a world of imagination in which they are. But anyway, since according to them pot is real, therefore dhvamsa becomes real for them. Therefore utpatti is real. Since we do not accept the reality of pot, there cannot be reality of utpatti or dhvamsa. Therefore, we will, before worrying about utpatti and dhvamsa, we will want to worry about the nature of pot. Where is it? What is pot? Please define. And some definition they will give, So then, what is Pruthu? What is it? Pruthu, Kambugriva, etc. And then some Udara. What is it? On the blackboard. It has the same kind of feature. Is it pot? Then you will say, no, in which you can fill water. In which you can do. You keep on pressing that. A pot you will require to give 15,000 actually characteristics, for a pot. You keep on asking questions. You will require ultimately infinite kind of conditions to define anything. You have to just press that. We just get so impressed by that that terminologies, and they present their idea in such a manner that we can't understand them. And therefore, it's all like mathematicians. They create a concept and then present it in such complicated equations that because it is complicated, therefore we think it must be right. And this is the trick, that you make it so complicated and it just goes overhead. Then you say, this is something wonderful. Let us listen to it 10 times. Simple to theek hai. Of course their mind is complicated. They are sincere people. The Nayayikas are not. They are very sincere people. But there is first complication is giving reality to the spot. Meaning giving reality to samsara. You give reality to pot. Unfortunately, giving reality to pot brings about reality to dukkha. That is our problem. We don't mind if world is real. We are not interested in proving anything unreal. Except that when the pot becomes real, then it becomes cause of sadness. Because it is broken pot. That's all, sadness. That's our problem. That reality given to the pot brings about sadness. Therefore the problem is. If they did not do anything, we would not touch. There are many problems that Vedanta will not touch, I tell you. It is not that Shankaracharya that touched every problem in the world, which later on Acharyas debated very elaborately. What does Shankaracharya think about perception and about inference, about this and that, and about Shakti of the Shabda? Many things he is not bothered about. Because it doesn't immediately affect us. When Acharya Samudrapi feels that it affects us, okay, fine, then you may talk about it. But what is our interest? Our interest is not debate and stuff like that. Our interest is in becoming free. Free from sad. That object should never be kept away from your mind. Otherwise you will just get distracted so much that what for are studying Vedanta will just go out of our mind. That is not the case. Our purpose is to become free from sadness. Understand that. To become free from sadness, you will have to become free from happiness also. That is not clear. They want to become free from pain also. But freedom from pain requires freedom from pleasure also. That they don't accept. Therefore, they imagine heavens which is full of pleasure and there is no pain. Therefore we say that there is tartamya there also. In Swarga also there is tartamya. That means there is dukkha there also. So if you want to become free from pain, you will have to become free from pleasure. That is called vairagya. Pleasure is sensational. It is priya. Something which is very, it creates a nice feeling. I don't want to give that up. Retaining that, I want moksha. So everybody wants to retain that Vaishayika Sukha. Now that video and that is all fine. Nothing wrong with them. But I look upon them for a sensation. That means that I don't want to give up that kind of happiness, that pleasure. If you don't want to give it up, if you get pleasure, that pain will come because it is another opposite, dvandva. That's how the life is. If you want to become free from pain, you must become free from pleasure also. Means grow out of it. This is what the Vedantins are saying. In whatever language they talk in language of Nayayikas, and therefore we do not see these things. What is meant is that they don't have vairagya. No, security you are seeking. If you want to become free from insecurity, You want to hang on to something for security, you can never get that. But anything that gives you security will also give you insecurity, because security is given is always conditional security, and where condition is not satisfied, you will be thrown out whatever it is. Swarga also gives you conditional security. Kshine punya marti lokam vishanti. Yavat sampadam ushitva. Swarga is great security. How long? As long as you have your wealth. If you are seeking security from something, it is going to be conditional security. If you are seeking happiness from something, conditional happiness. And as long as you have the capability of fulfilling that condition, so long happiness and security will be there, and so long karma is required. That's all they can imagine. They cannot imagine a security or happiness which is without effort. That is the moksha that is presented here. And thus to explain that nature of moksha is the purpose of discussion. The dhumsa etc. are not relevant to us when the jagat is mithya, when nothing is created, nothing is destroyed, and therefore there is no utpatti, there is no dhumsa, and therefore we cannot give those illustrations. But we still give because that is the language that they understand. And in order to convince them, we should find what is it that is called, the nyaya, where you take his own stick, and then you have to beat him. Like that camel. Normally camel supports a stick, you take the same, if it doesn't behave properly, take the very same stick and bring it in control. Similarly also their own value, own nyayas or thinking pattern you have to take and then show them the fallacy. Therefore the argument is ashariratvam bhavarupameva. Your dhvamsa is a bhavarupaha. Destruction is what? Absence of that part is called dhvamsa. Part is no more there. Non-existence of the part. So dhvamsa or destruction as they call it is abhavarupam. Where ashariratvam is not abhavarupam. So moksha is what? Bhavarupam. This is very important. Moksha is a positive, a real entity. It is not absence of something. So ashariratvam bhavarupameva natu abhavarupam. Ashariratvam is, or what they call moksha, which is freedom from embodiment, is not some kind of a state of absence or non-existence of something. It is bhavarupam. It is a positive existing thing, principle. Atah dhumsa vailakshanya. Therefore, this ashariratvam does not fall in the same category as dhumsa. Drishtanta vaishamyam. And therefore, this drishtanta of dhumsa, where you show dhumsa is nitya and dhumsa is created and moksha is nitya, therefore moksha is created. That dhumsa illustration is not an apt illustration, and therefore moksha cannot be kept in the category of dhumsa. The moksha cannot be in the category of karma phala. It is siddhanta abhipraya. Says ashariratma swarupasya mokshasya anaditve bhavatve cha pramanatve udahatam shrutim vyachaste. Ashariratma swarupasya mokshasya. What is moksha? Ashariratma swarupasya. Atma is the sharira. So Atma, which is free from embodiment or unconnected with any body or any upadhi, that abiding in that Atma or that Atma itself is moksha. Mokshasya anaditve. That moksha is uncreated. Bhavatvecha, and it is a positive principle. Pramanatvena udardam shrutim vyachaste. Now Shruti is quoted by Bhashyakara, which shows that moksha is bhavarupa, meaning it is a positive existent principle, and anadi, it is natural or causeless. And to show that, Bhashyakara quotes another Shruti, another statement from the Upanishad. Says there further, Ashariram sharireshu anavastheshvavasthitam mahantam vivumatmanam matva dhiro na shochati aprano hyamana shubhrah असंगो ह्ययं पुरुषः इत्यादि श्रुतिभ्यः तस्य स्वाभाविकत्वात्. Swabhavika means that which is natural, uncreated. Therefore the Tikakara calls it Anadi. And Swabhavika means that which is natural, means existing, not non-existence. So in this Swabhavikatva, in that particular Hetu, both the elements are contained. Swabhavika means uncaused or Anadi, and Swabhavika means that which has Swabhava, which is an existent entity and is not a non-existent thing or an absence of something. It is some present positive entity. Says now, Ashariram Sharireshu, says Ratnabhava, Ashariram Sthuladeha Shunyam, Atma Tattva, or Brahma is what? Ashariram, Sthuladeha Shunyam, devoid of Sthuladeha. Then Sharireshu, Deheshu, Anekeshu, Anavastheshu, Avasthitam, Anityeshu, Ekam Nityam. So Anekeshu, Deheshu, Sthula Deha Shunyam. Who is Atma? One who is the unembodied in and through all the embodiments. Kshetrajnam Chabamam Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. Hey Bharata, I am the Kshetrajna. I am the very self in all the upadis. What is my nature? I am the one who is devoid of any Vishesha. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini. When all these different beings who are totally diverse in nature, one is totally sattvic, other one is totally tamas. In such diverse beings also, when Atma is present in the same way, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu, without any exception, I equally abide everywhere. That shows that I doesn't have any Vishesha at all. Is what? Nirvishesham. And therefore, Ashariram Sharireshu, that which obtains in and through all the bodies, in and through all the upadis, which itself is Nirvishesham, devoid of any specific characteristics. Anavastheshu Avasthitam, Anekeshu Ek, Ashariram Sharireshu, Sharireshu is plural, Ashariram is singular. Therefore, Anekeshu Sharireshu Ekam Ashariram, which is one in and through the many, which is unembodied or devoid of embodiment, meaning devoid of any Vishesha, in and through all the Visheshas. Anityeshu Anavastheshu Avasthitam. Anavastheshu means Anityeshu Avasthitam Nityam. So that which is again Anavastheshu plural, Avasthitam singular. And therefore, among many that are impermanent, this is permanent. Atma, I is permanent in and through the impermanent, devoid of the embodiment or unembodied in and through the bodies. Mahantam Vibhumatmanam Matva Dhirona Shochadi. Mahantam meaning what? Vyapinam, that which is pervasive. How pervasive? Vibhum. So Mahan also means pervasive, Vibhu also means pervasive. Looks like both the words mean the same. So says here, Apekshika Mahatvam Varayati Vibhum. Mahantam, somebody may think that it is pervasive alright within a certain range. There is no pervasiveness without qualification, which is unqualified pervasive, meaning all pervasive. Matva dhirona shochati. Tamatmanam matva meaning jnatva dhiraha san shokopalakshitam samsaram na anubhavati ityartha. Tamatmanam matva meaning jnatva. So he says, Nadu krutva. This moksha is what? Knowing the Atma. Ashariram Atmanam Gnatva. Nadu Ashariram Atmanam Krutva. It is not that Atma has been made Asharira. And that's how the Mahan Jo Dhirona Shochadi, that the wise man became free from Shoka, not having brought about Ashariratma Atma. Understand this. Matva. It is not that the wise man did something, therefore the Atma became free from Sharira and therefore he became free from Shoka. Ashariram Matva. Ashariram Atmanam Jnatva. Knowing the Atma to be Ashariri, he becomes free from grief. Taking the Atma to be Sasharira is all the grief, and knowing the Atma is Asharira is freedom from grief. And that's the Bhagavad Gita. That's how the Lord Krishna first right away teaches Arjuna how to become free from grief. Knowing that na jayate mriyate va kadachit, you are never born and never die, meaning all the characteristics of Sharira are denied there. So what is said there? Atma is Asharira. It's not that you have to become Asharira. If you have to become Asharira, then you must do something. Then Devudu said, Jnatva, matva, of course they can always interpret that as upasana or something. But matva here is jnatva. Because, so man dhatu in the sense of knowledge. So matva meaning jnatva, dhiraha na shochati. Wise man does not grieve anymore, knowing the Atma who is already a Sharira. Tam Atmanam Jnatva Dhiraha San becomes wise. So Dhyam Rati, it is Dhiraha. So that which actually impels the Dhi or the Buddhi. So one is a Sakshi of the Buddhi. That's how Dhira also means Atma, witness. So he also becomes identified with Atma. Of course, dhira means wise. Shokopalakshitam samsaram na anubhavati. Na shochati means, so shoka stands for what? Samsara. Shokopalakshitam samsaram na anubhavati. He no more experiences samsara, which is of the nature of shoka. Or shoka stands for all the sense of limitation in the life, or all the suffering in life. And so, na shochati. He becomes free from grief. Says that anavastheshu avasthitamiti anena anaditvam itaramshena bhavatvam iti vignayam. Since he is himself posed at Purvapaksha, he himself has to see those elements in the arguments anyway. That anavastheshu avasthitam iti anena anaditvam. Ashariram sharireshu already is there. And anavastheshu avasthitam, that which is already a shariram and avasthitam. That shows that is already there, meaning is uncreated anadi. And then itaramshena bhavatvam or ashariram sharireshu bhavatvam means that which is already there as unembodied, whatever it is. So positiveness is there and the anaditvam is there. The long discussion here. Alright, let us read the Ratna Prabha here. Sukshma Deha Bhave Shrutimaha Aprano Hyamana Shubhraha. Then Mundaka says, first Kathopanishad, Mundaka says Apranaha. So that's also interesting to interpret that Kathopanishad mantra is interpreted as Atma being devoid of Sthula Sharira, and Apranaha and Amanaha meaning Atma is devoid of Sukshma Sharira, because Prana and Mana, both of them fall in the Sukshma Sharira. So by denial of Prana and the Mana in the Atma, Atma is revealed as free from Sukshma Sharira. So Sukshma Deha Bhave Shrutimaha Aprana Iti. Prana Manasoho Kriya Jnana Shaktiho Nishedhat. Prana means Kriya Shakti and Mana means Ichcha or Jnana Shakti. Tat Adhinanam Karma Jnanendriyanam Nishodo Hiyataha. And therefore, when Kriya Shakti is not there, the Karmendriya which require depend upon Prana or Jnanendriya which depend upon the mind, they also are denied. When Prana is not there, what's the use of Karmendriya? When mind is not there, what's the use of the sense organs of perception? So when Prana and mind are not there, naturally Karmendriya and Jnanendriya also cannot be there, because Karmendriyas depend upon Prana for their functioning, Jnanendriyas depend upon mind for their functioning. Nishedo hiyataha. Since Karmendriyani, Jnanendriyani, Pranaha, Manaha, Sthula Sharira, all of them has been negated, Ataha Shuddha Ityarthaha. Therefore, it is Shuddha, it is pure. There is nothing to contaminate that in any way. Dehadvaya Abhave Shruti. And there is a third Shruti which talks about the absence of both gross and subtle body in Atma. Asangohyayam Purushaha iti. Nrsimhottaratapanyam or Brihadaranyaka as Ayam Purushaha. Purusha means Atma. Asangaha. He is unconnected. Unconnected with body, unconnected with mind, unconnected with everything. So unconnected with gross and subtle bodies. So says Purnanandi on the page 149, Brahma Veda Brahmayo Bhavati Vidya Amrutamasnade Brahma Samstho Amrutatvameti अथायम अशरीरः अमृतः प्राणः ब्रह्मैव इत्यादि श्रुतिभिः दर्शितस्य ब्रह्मात्मत्व अशरीरत्व अमृतत्व लक्षणस्य मोक्षस्य साधित्व अंतवत्वं च स्यात्. Says Brahma Veda Brahmayeva Bhavati. One becomes Brahma by knowing Brahman. Vidyaya Amrutamasnude. By knowledge one becomes immortal. Brahma Samstaha Amrutatvameti. One who abides in Brahma becomes immortal. Athayam Ashariraha Amritaha Pranaha Brahmaiva. Atha thereafter, having discussed something else, Atha talking about Atma, having talked about Anatma, then Atha now Ayam Ashariraha. This Atma is Ashariraha. You are the body, Amritaha, immortal. Pranaha Brahmaiva. Prana here means nothing but that is adhishthanam for prana or pranasya prana. Brahmaiva, that is indeed Ayam Pranaha Brahmaiva. This Atma is Brahma indeed. Ityadi Shrutibhihi Darshitasya Brahmatmatva. Brahma Veda Brahmayavoti shows what? Brahmatmatvam, that this person becomes Brahma. Ashariratva Vidyaya Amrutamasnude, becomes immortal means what? Becomes free from the body. Ashariratva Amrutatva Brahma Samstha Amrutatvam Lakshanasya Mokshasya. Therefore, Amrutatvam is on all the three mantras anyway, so expressions. Mokshasya Sadhitva. If you say that moksha such as this is created, Antavatvam Sad, then the moksha also will become Antavat, meaning it will also come to an end also. So that's good. So, Ishtapatti. Suppose sometimes you make an argument thinking you have made a point, they say that's good, that's what we like, Sometimes that happens. Very seriously you make an argument proving a point, they say that's what we are saying, That's what Ishtapat, that's exactly what we are saying. If you say that moksha suggests this, Brahmatmatva, Amrutatvam, Ashariratvam, this moksha becomes created, then it will become Antavat also. So that's fine. Don't say that. Antavatvat, Anityatvena, Punaravrittau, anything that comes to an end, then Anitya, it becomes impermanent. Punaravrittau, then again you will start that cycle again. Punarbandha, then again Punarvritimon, again assuming another embodiment. So Punarbandha, again there is bondage. Mokshasya upacharitarthatva prasanga. Then moksha doesn't become moksha in the primary sense. Because moksha, so-called moksha, upacharita means the upachara is there. In a gauna sense alone it will become moksha, it won't be nitya. Moksha must necessarily be nitya. So, if you say that moksha is created, then it would also become anitya. In that case, uktashrutya upacharitarthatvaparana rupanyayana cha. Uktashrutya, ashariram sharireshu aprano khyamana shubhra, and all the shrutis that we have quoted. And also in as much as if you accept moksha as having a beginning, you will wind up with this problem of moksha being only a gauna in a gauna sense. Anadi bhavasya mokshasva nitya siddhatva pratipattehe. Therefore, moksha is anadi nitya siddha, ever existent pratipattehe. This is what we understand from the Shruti. No upasana kriya rupa dharma phalatvam is siddhantartha. And therefore, moksha cannot be the result of dharma of the nature of upasana. This is what the Siddhanti says by calling it swabhavika, meaning calling it anadi as well as anadi is important. Bhavarupa is okay because the dhumsa illustration was given, so bhavarupatvam was there, But important thing also is anadi. Of course, anadi has to be bhavarupa. That is uncreated. For something to be uncreated, if it is non-existence, it must be an existent thing anyway. So bhavarupatvam naturally follows with anaditvam. But anyway, according to them, this pragabhava also is anadi, Again. And therefore, so abhava rupa and still anadi. Again, they seem to have this notion, therefore is a bhava rupatvam and anaditvam. Anyway. No upasana kriya rupa dharma phalatvam is siddhantartha. So Siddhanti says that this moksha cannot be karma phala of nature of upasana. And therefore, going to page 1550, Nirdehatma Swarupa Mokshasya Anadi Bhavatve Siddhe Phalitamaha. Nirdehatma Swarupa Mokshasya. So moksha is the nature of Nirdehatvam, meaning that which is unembodied, devoid of embodiment, meaning devoid of limitation. Again, when we say that it is devoid of embodiment, there is nothing, no tiraskar of the embodiment. To show that Atma is unembodied, meaning it is free from all limitations, that's all. Moment Atma is embodied, however exalted that embodiment is, it is going to be limited. So Atma is unembodied means free from all limitations. So Nirdehatma Swarupa Mokshasya anadi bhavatvam, it is ever existent, ever there. Siddhe, anadi bhavatve siddhe, phalitamaha. So we have shown by Shruti, Smriti and Nyaya. Shruti, Smriti and Nyaya. It has been shown here that moksha is anadi and bhavarupaha. So phalitamaha. Therefore, ataha eva, says here, bhashya, ataha eva अनुष्ठेय कर्म फल विलक्षणम मोक्षाख्यम अशरीरत्वम नित्यम इति सिद्धम अतः एव therefore indeed अनुष्ठेय कर्म फल विलक्षणम मोक्षाख्यम that which is known as moksha, which is ashariratvam. What it is ashariratvam, the state of being so unembodied, the state of being free from embodiment, which is known as moksha, because embodiment means sparsha priya priya. So shariratvam is what? Priya priya sparsha, and priya priya means samsara. So samsara sparsha is there wherever body is. Atma is asharira, therefore samsara asprishta. That's the reason why Atma being adhishthanam is unaffected by any kind of whatever there is in the adhyaropa. Therefore it is adhisthana lakshana Atma, and therefore it is asharira. Asharira means what? That which adhishthanam for sharira. That which gives satta and spurti to sharira, but itself remains totally unaffected or untouched or unconnected with sharira. That moksha is nityam. It is nitya, meaning it is uncreated, ever existent. It cannot be a product of karma phala. Product of karma phala has a beginning and therefore it must have an end. Moksha is not created, therefore it is indestructible also. But the moment you use the word nityam, then again people will have other problem. Nityam dvividham, parinama nityam, kutastha nityam cha. Wait a minute, you say moksha is nitya, that's fine. But nityatvam or impermanence also is of two kinds. Two kinds of impermanence are there. For in impermanence also, they have two kinds. What is it? Parinama nityam and kutastha nityam, impermanence. Changing impermanence and changeless impermanence. So in which category of impermanence moksha is? We'll say moksha is permanent, all right, but changing permanent. Some vishesha they want to attach somehow. If they don't want to attach, we want to eliminate any kind of possibility. Whether some Purva Pakshi is there or not, we don't know. But you raise a Purva Paksha also in order to eliminate any possibility. Don't leave anything for granted, don't take it for granted, or don't leave anything unaddressed. Count down means count up to 10. Sometimes they count up to 6 and then say, don't declare him winner unless countdown has taken place. Let proper procedure be followed. Otherwise, there are those disputes. In the world championship of the boxing, there are disputes because this referee once discontinued the match because he thought that this fellow will die. Sometimes what happens is, these fellows are all killers anyway. In order for you to be a boxing champion, you must have a killer instinct. If you cannot kill, you cannot play boxing. You must hit and hit for hitting, not just to favor him or to save him. When you see the fellow hit on his jaw and bleeding and distorted and in pain, then hit again, then alone you can win. This kind of things. Anyway, this is all these animal games. But whatever it is. Apart from this, there is a lot of skill involved. Apart from this, once you eliminate this aspect of cruelty involved in there, otherwise that game is a fantastic game. The boxers are some of the most fittest people and some of the most agile, and they have tremendous qualities which you just cannot, we can't even imagine. That much amount of alertness, smartness and so much concentration they have. But unfortunately it calls for cruelty. Many of the sports call for cruelty, like football, American football or any football, any sport these days. Because you want to win. Whenever a sport is played for the sake of winning, the cruelty will come. Because it's at the cost of somebody else. So you kick here and there. The football also, kick in such a manner that the fellow drops once and for all. Hockey also. The hockey stick is with you, Nobody sees. Then you will be smart, that's all. The referees are smart and these fellows must be smarter anyway. So this is all. But the point is, that you should, at least in this one, you don't want to leave anything unaddressed. Otherwise, later on, you will rise up again. Wait a minute. We say, your moksha is nitya, alright, but we say it is parinami nitya. So, nityam dvividam, parinami nityam, kutastha nityam cha. A changing permanent thing. Like the river water, flow of the water is never the same, but every time you, hey, last year we came to this Ganges, we think that we came to the same Ganges, we did not. Even next moment is not the same Ganges, constantly changing, but creates the appearance of being permanent as though. Like a flame which is constantly changing, but creates the appearance of being permanently there. Like a film that is constantly changing, creates the appearance of being there, even though the frames are moving. And so very often when a thing is changing so fast that you do not even realize that it is changing. So, but then that is what? Parinami nityam. And so there is parinami nityam and kutastha nityam. So when you use the word nityam, you may as well clarify this, that by nitya we mean kutastha nitya and not parinami. So Bhashyakara in many places has to do this. Anashinah nityasya ukta sharina anashinah. Why anashya and nitya? Then somehow you have to explain it. That either it would be parinami nityam or kutastha nityam. So calling anashi nityam meaning kutastha nityam and not parinami nityam in this manner. So Bhashyakara takes up that point also of nityam. Says Bhashya, tatra kinchita parinami nityam yasmin vikriyamanepi tadeva idam iti buddhihi na vihanyate yatha prathivyadi jagan nityatvavadinam yatha sankhyanam yatha cha sankhyanam gunaha idantu paramarthikam kutastham nityam vyomavad sarvavyape sarvavikriyarahitam nityatriptam niravayavam swayam jyotisvabhavam. Tatra, when we talk of this nityatva, kinchit parinami nityam, kinchit vastu. There are certain things which are parinami nityam, which are permanent, all right, but then constantly changing. So they are like flow. So they are parinami nitya. So changingly permanent, whatever it is, permanently changing you can call it, or constantly changing, but ever there. What is that parinami? Yasmin vikriyamanepi tadeva idam iti buddhihi na vihanyate. Even though it changes, still we feel it is the same thing. That's called parinami nityam. As the illustration we used to give of that wood splitter, wood cutter. This fellow has an axe with him, with which he cuts the wood. Somebody asked him, when did you get this axe? Hey, this is 150 years old. My great grandfather was using this axe and that has come down to me. This is axe of my great grandfather. Really? You mean this wooden, what do you call it, the handle of the axe, is it from your time of great grandfather? Says no. That has been changed, every 3 years we change it. Then this metal, the phala that is there of the axe, is it from your time of great grandfather? No, that we change every 10 years. And therefore, in this so-called axe, which is 150 years old, it has changed perhaps 50 times, in different ways, and still there is a buddhi that this is the same axe from the time of our great grandfather. Same body from the time of 50 years. Why? Because that is how I know it. And therefore, we think that the body is the same, even though a doctor will tell you every 7 years the blood changes and every so many moment all cells are changing. It is never the same, and still we feel it is permanent. It is the same. Yasmin vikriyamanepi, that which constantly, that which changes. Tadeva idam iti buddhihi na vihanyate. And still it is the same thing. That kind of buddhi. This kind of a conclusion on our part, that is the same thing. Even though it is changing, we still call it the same. When a thing like this is there, then we call it parinami nityam. Of course, the body is not parinami nityam because after 50 years it won't be there. But that which was ever there and that which will ever be there also for all the people to come, that this is Prithvi, Yasa Prasivyadi, this is Prithvi, and all the 5 elements, etc. Jagan Nityatvavadinam, those people who say that Jagat is Nityam, for them this Prithvi and all these things are Nitya also. So they see the same earth day in and day out, same sun day in and day out. So they think that the sun is permanent, even though every day it is perhaps losing, its temperature. What is it, by 4 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that, And though every year I think it is losing its heat, and that therefore it is reducing in temperature. But we feel that it is the same sun. This is called Parinami Nityam. Jagan Nityatvavadinam Yathacha Sankhyanam Gunaha, according to Sankhya's, is Sattva Rajas Tamo Guna. Samya Avastha is called Pradhanam, and there is Nityam. So Gunanam Samya Avastha Pradhanam. So when the Vishama Avastha comes, then there is what we call Prakriti, then there is a creation. But even at the time of Pralaya, the gunas don't get destroyed. In Pralaya there is no activity, but the Samya Avastha or the state of equilibrium of all the qualities, Sattva Rajas Tamas, remains. And therefore, according to Sankhya's, this Pradhanam is permanent, but constantly changing, therefore it is called Parinami Nityam. So these things are called Parinami Nityam. Moksha is not like that. Idandu Paramarthikam, this is absolute. Kutastham, changeless. Paramarthikam Nityam. Paramarthikam Kutastham Nityam. Itamdu Parama. This Paramarthik Vastu is what? Kutastham Nityam. It is changeless, permanent. Vyomvat Sarvavyapi, because like space, it is all pervasive. And when it is all pervasive means Advitiyam. When Advitiyam, therefore there cannot be destruction. Sarvakriyarahitam, and therefore devoid of any kind of transformation or change. Because Nitya Truptam, ever content or full, but because Niravayavam, it is partless. Swayam Jyotisvaham, because self-existing and self-shining. Therefore it is Nitya. If something, it depends upon something else for its existence, then it cannot be Nitya. Effect cannot be Nitya because effect depends upon the cause for its existence. This cloth cannot be Nitya because cloth depends upon cotton. If the cotton goes, the cloth has no freedom to remain. Here Swayam Jyotisvaham means what? Self-effulgent, meaning self-existent. And therefore it is Nityam. So Atma, Brahma is Kutastha Nityam, so Moksha also is Nitya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sūtra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Atha Om Atha Om Atha Tu Samanvayat. Page 149. Sharirattvameva dharmakayamiti chet na tasya svabhavikatvad ashariram sharireshu anavasteshvavasthitam Mahantam vibhumatmanam matva dhiro na shochati aprano hyamana shubhra asango hyayam purushaha ityadi shritibhyah ataiva Anushtheya karma phala virakshanam mokshakyam ashariratvam नित्यमिति सिद्धम् तत्र किंचित् परिणामि नित्यम् यस्मिन् विक्रियमाणेऽपि तदेव इदमिति बुद्धिर्न विहन्यते यथा पृथिव्यादि जगन्नित्यत्ववादिनाम् यथा च सांख्यानां गुणाः इदन्तो पारमार्थिकम् कूटस्थं नित्यम् व्योमवत् सर्वव्यापी सर्वविक्रियारहितम् नित्यतृप्तम् निरवयवम् स्वयं ज्योतिस्वभावम् अतएव अनुष्ठेय कर्मफल विलक्षणम मोक्षाख्यम अशरीरत्वम नित्यमिति सिद्धम. Idea is this ashariratvam, meaning the freedom from this embodiment, is not something that is created swabhavikatvatvat. I mean, that is already the nature of the self, and therefore ashariratvam is not to be created. Ashariram sharireshu anavasteshu avasthitam. So Atma already is in and through the body. Ashariram, one that is bodiless. Anavastheshu avasthitam, in and through all that is impermanent, one that is permanent. And that's how also aprano hyamana shubhra. Ashariram sharireshu, when it said it is devoid of the gross body. Aprano hyamana shubhra, when it is said it is without prana and the mind, means it is without the subtle body. Asango hiyayam purusha, means it is devoid of gross and subtle bodies. Ityadi Shrutibhya. Already Atma is free. So it's not that it has to be made free. That's the whole idea here. That not that Atma is to be made free, it already is free. So ashariratva meaning freedom from the body. And therefore that freedom from the body is not something to be created, it already is the nature of Atma. And that the bondage therefore is not the nature of Atma. It's not that I am bound, therefore I feel bound. If bondage were the nature of Atma, perhaps we would have accepted bondage also. Whatever is natural we would accept. So if Atma really were bound, I guess we would have been happy with the bondage. The fact that we are not happy, that shows it is not natural for Atma. And therefore, swabhavikatvat, it is already something that is there, which is the nature of things. Ataha eva anushthaya karmaphala vilakshanam mokhyaksham shariratvam nityam siddham. Therefore, nityam means indestructible. Indestructible because uncreated. And therefore we say that moksha is nitya. Moksha is not created. Had it been created, it would have been perishable. It is nitya because it is uncreated. Karmaphala vilakshanam. Therefore, karmaphalam is what? That which is created as a result of performance of karma. If moksha is uncreated, it is something quite different from a karmaphala. So karmaphala vilakshanam. Moksha is something quite different from karmaphala. Mokshakhyam ashariratvam nityamiti siddham. And this, what is known as moksha, which is anitya, ashariratvam, is nityam. Nitya means is ever there, it is siddham. This is what has been proven. Then the question was raised here in Ratna Prabha line 3, Nityatvebi parinamitaya dharmakaryatvam mokshasthiti ashankya nityam dvedha vibhajate. Alright, moksha is nitya. Nityatvebi, even when nityatvam is there, we say that nityatvam or permanence is of two kinds. Parinamitaya dharmakaryatvam, permanence also is of two kinds. One is what is known as parinami nityam, meaning a changingly permanent, and kudastham nityam, changeless being impermanent. Which permanent being changeless and permanent being changing. These two kinds of permanence are there. Not according to Vedantins, but according to other people. That's why Bhashyakara quotes, for whom? So, nityam dvedha vibhajate. Bhashyakara explains how nityam or permanent also is considered to be of two kinds. Tatra kinchit parinami nityam. Bhashya kinchit iti taditi sheshaha. Because there is yasmin. Tat parinami nityam. There is something that can be called parinami nityam, or permanent while changing. And how do you say? Yasmin vikriyamanepi tadeva idamid buddhihi na vihanyate. Yasmin vikriyamanepi. This changing permanent is such that it is constantly undergoing change, and this has created in people an impression that change itself is truth. As the Bauddhas would say, when they talk of kshanika vijnanam, meaning changeless is truth. They say there is nothing changeless. Even what appears to be, what changelessness is an appearance. Look at a flame. Looks like it is the same flame. It's not changing, but understand it is constantly changing. Moment to moment a new flame is arising, except that it is arising so fast that you do not know that it is changing. And so also, don't think that Atma is permanent. It is constantly changing. Changing so fast that you don't, just like a film. Those frames are moving so fast that it gives you the idea of continuity, even though there is a discrete frames. Thus there is discreteness and not continuity. This is true. When they talk of the quantum theory, they talk of the quanta. It is called discreteness. It is not continuous. They found out that even the light which appears to be constant is in fact discrete. So discreteness is the nature of creation, it seems, and not constancy. Discreteness, this, it's like coming. No link between the two quanta. If the link is there, then it is connected. So discreteness means when there is no link between the two elements. So it is called kshanika vijnanam, where Atma every moment is different, fresh. And so, therefore, it is true. So they observed that this is parinami nityam, there is something constantly changing. Therefore they thought that change is the nature of things.